Hello everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Boom Children's Ministries, and today we are going to talk about my next secret weapon, the memory verse. Before that, let's hear our great introduction.
Wait, the secret weapon!
Alright, today we're going to talk about one of my biggest secret weapons, and that is the memory verse. Now, when I was first getting started in children's ministry, I did not really see the benefit of, I didn't see the benefit of the memory verse, saying I understood that the memory verse is important, as in the children learning from God's word and the children memorizing Bible. Of course, that's great. But I didn't see the benefit when it came to the structure of your children's ministry. I almost saw it as a filler, something fill in. But let me say today that the memory verse can be the most dynamic, one of the most exciting parts of your program. And I'm not just saying that. In fact, now that whenever I get to have the chance to do my own program now, and I don't get to as much anymore now that I'm a senior pastor, but whenever I get the chance to be with the children, I will do a memory verse time, because I think memory verse time is great, and it takes up a good amount of time, and it helps establish your order, and the kids enjoy it. And those are three things, again, the three things that are very good criteria for how your children's ministry ought to go. Again, control, it takes up a good amount of time, and of course there's a spiritual application to it. So let's talk about the memory verse. A few things about the memory verse that you need to keep in mind. Number one, your memory verse ought to go along with your lesson for the day, right? Now, this is very consistent with a few weeks ago we did our episode on puppet ministry. We did our episode on puppet ministry, and you remember me saying that the puppet show ought to go along with your actual lesson. You want everything in your program that day, maybe excluding the songs, since you can't really teach a bunch of new songs every week. But you want practically everything in your program to go along with your lesson. Basically, everything is pointing toward your big lesson for the day. The lesson is the climax of your program. So your puppet show, I'm backwards. So your puppet show, see him right there. Your puppet show is going to go along with your lesson. And your memory verse is going to go along with your lesson. Now, for some of you, this is going to be really easy because you might have a curriculum that already gives you a memory verse that goes along with the lesson. That's really good. But if you don't have that, I would advise you to pick a memory verse that goes along with the lesson. So here's an example of what not to do. Suppose you're doing a story on David and Goliath, right? And so the lesson's on David and Goliath, and you decide to choose the memory verse, rejoice in the Lord always, and again I say rejoice. Now, that's a good verse. It's a very good verse, and we certainly need to be joyful people. We need to rejoice in the Lord. However, you want everything that you're doing in the day to synergize with each other. So if you're going to do a story on David and Goliath, if you're going to do the story of David and Goliath, then maybe you should do a Bible verse about faith, or maybe a Bible verse about courage, to stand up to do what's right, something along those lines. So you want them to go along with each other. The second thing about memory verses is that you do want to take up a good amount of time doing them. Now, you could say that one song we talked about with Christ as my vessel, you could say that that doing that for a long period of time doesn't have so much spiritual value to it. And I would argue that it does have some, but I would say that the most impactful way you can spend your time is doing memory verses. I mean, the Bible even says, "Thy word have I hid in my heart that I might not sin against thee." So spending a lot of time on the Bible verse is a very good thing. And I would encourage you to spend 10 to 15 minutes of your program each and every week. Yes, every week, devoted to memory verses. And that's not just a good spiritual advice, but that's practical advice too. Because if you have a 45-minute program, an hour program, 10 to 15 minutes spent on Bible verse time, that's a good time eater, and it's a very spiritual time eater. So spend a lot of time on the Bible verse. Now, number 3, how do you do that? How do you spend a lot of time on your Bible verse? Because I don't know about you, but when I'm teaching my children in school, I do my kids I do their history class every day. So I'm teaching them through they're memorizing right now the Declaration of Independence, right? And I think I've said this before. If I did, don't mind me. But it's really cute to hear my youngest say unalienable. I could hardly say it, the word unalienable, until I started helping them. But when I help my kids memorize, I don't do it for long stretches of time because I don't do it a fun way, right? Because I have so many things I have to help them memorize. But you have the benefit in Children's Church of having one thing that they need to memorize so you can do it in a fun, impactful way. So let me give you, if you could do a memory verse this way every single week, it would not get boring. It would not get tiresome. You could do this every single week and get away with it. Now, I wouldn't do it every week. I would do variations of this every once in a while. But here's what I would do. Now, I don't have a whiteboard behind me. I don't have a chalkboard. So what we're going to do is I want you to look here at the bottom of your screen, right? At the bottom of your screen, there's going to be a Bible verse there. Let's say it's John 3:16, okay? John 3:16. So here's how I would do the memory verse for Children's Church, okay? So let me put my YouTuber hat off. And we're going to put I don't know why I split my hat. We're going to take my YouTuber hat off, and we're going to put my youth pastor, children's pastor hat on, all right? All right, boys and girls, now we're going to learn our memory verse, John 3:16. So I want everyone standing up straight and tall. Stand attention. All right, and remember, stand attention. They'll jump up and say, hut. All right, I don't know if we talked about that before. We'll talk about that sometime. Stand attention. All right, we're going to learn John 3:16. So everybody say it with me. John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. I'm looking at it right now because whenever I'm under pressure like this, hey, when you're under pressure, you can even forget a verse like John 3:16. So I looked at it real quick. All right, sorry, that was commentary. I'm supposed to be children's pastor right now. Very good. Now we're going to say it two more times together, and then we're going to mix things up just a little bit. Okay, ready? John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Very good. One more time. John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Pause right here. Now don't forget. The words to this verse are behind you on a whiteboard or a chalkboard. That's a very important thing. Also, when I'm doing the memory verse, this is elementary stuff, and you probably already understand this. When you're teaching a memory verse, you want for the memory verse to kind of be in a cadence, right? I'm not saying, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. That might be a little difficult. Now, maybe not for this verse, but for other verses it will be. So when I am doing a memory verse for the children, I'm saying, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. There's a cadence to it, and actually that does help with memory. Okay, so there's a cadence. The words are behind you on the whiteboard or the blackboard right now. It's underneath you here on the screen. Back to being a children's pastor. All right, everyone sit down, sit attention. All right, now I'm looking for one kid sitting up straight and tall, doing their very, very best, and they're going to take out one word from the Bible verse. One word from the Bible verse, sitting up straight and tall. Big cheesy grin on your face. Big cheesy grin, big cheesy grin. Anyone with a big cheesy grin? Yes, you, Tommy, right there. Take a word out of the Bible verse. Okay, now Tommy has taken out begotten. Okay, so we are erasing the word begotten on the whiteboard. For our sake right here, the word begotten is going to be taken out from the bottom of the screen. Now, when we get to that word, we're still going to say the word. It's just not there anymore. So you have to remember the word begotten, all right? Think you can do it? All right, stand attention. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Sit attention. All right, I'm looking for another kid sitting up straight and tall, this time with a sad look on their face. Let me see the saddest look you can possibly give me, a sad look. All right, little Susie over here, pick out a word from the verse. All right, Susie has picked out the word world. All right, so we erase the word world, and we're going to take the word out for the bottom here. Now, don't forget, when we get to the word world, we're still going to say it. It's just not up there anymore. We're learning this Bible verse, and every word we take out, we're learning the verse more and more. All right, ready? Stand attention. John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Sit attention. Now, I'm not going to keep doing this over and over again, so YouTuber hat back on. I'm not going to keep doing this over and over again with you because I think you understand the point, the concept here now. Now, another thing to mention, notice how I tell them to stand attention when it's time to do the verse. But then, between the verse, I'm telling them to sit back down. There's a reason for that. Again, it establishes your control over the room, which we've talked about a lot. If you watched every single one of my episodes, you know by now that that's a very important part of children's ministry. So I've established control over the room, and I'm doing that by telling them to stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down, stand up, sit down. Also, it gets their energy out. Whenever you can find an excuse to get them to stand up and then sit down and then stand up and then sit down, even if it's just for like 5 seconds, do it. Do it. Anyway, you can do this over and over and over again, right? You can do this so many times. You can do this until there are 0 words left on your whiteboard. And by then, they know the verse. By then, they're saying John 3:16, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. Because they've taken out one word at a time, they've learned it. Now, what makes this so that it doesn't get boring, what makes this so that it doesn't get old, is having the kids pick out words themselves. And then having them give a big cheesy grin on their face, all that stuff, that makes this exciting, makes it dynamic and fun. Once again, what you're doing is you're making it seem as if you are giving them freedom. And I hate sounding so cynical and sinister when I say this. It makes it seem like you're giving the kids freedom, but in reality, you are establishing more of your own control. And they're having fun while you're doing it. So that's what makes this exciting. And the truth is, you can do this every single week because every week is a different verse. Every week there's different words to pick. Every week you can pick different kids, and instead of saying a big cheesy grin, you can say, all right, well, being as still as a statue, or angry face, or fill in the blank with anything else. You can mix and match these any way you want. Another way you could do it is, instead of writing it on a whiteboard, you can have balloons with one word on each balloon, and then the kids can come up and pop the balloon. I don't do that all the time. I do that every once in a while on special occasions, but the kids love that. So that is a way to keep the memory verse fresh every week. It spends a lot of time on those memory verses, but it's fun, and they learn a memory verse out of it. One of the most impactful things that you can possibly do in your children's program. So use memory verse time. If you were to cut anything out, do not cut out memory verse. You have to do a lesson. That's something you have to do because that's the whole point of them being there. But beyond the lesson, the second priority is memory verse time. And you can make memory verses in a way that are fun and that will actually help the kids to grow in the Lord. So that is my second secret weapon today, memory verse time. Use it well. Hey, and if you do happen to use it because of this video, be sure to comment down below of how well that went. And give this video a like and subscribe. We need some subscribers. We need some likers. We need all that kind of stuff. So go ahead, give it a shot. And I will see you next week. Thanks for watching.